Okay, this video is going to be processing yellow scan mapper data through PosPac into CloudStation and getting a georeferenced point cloud as an LAS file output. So first we are going to go into PosPac, and while that's opening, I'll kind of show you my structuring and file hierarchy. So I have clients, I have my clients. Within there, I have the project sites that I flew. I have my raw GNSS data. That's my base station static file, and that is my control points all within here. I have my flight mission that comes straight off of the mapper. Mission planning, project, cloud station, and TBC. So within PosPac, we will create a new default project. And what you need for this step is you're going to need the TO4 file that comes off of the mission that was flown. And then we're going to need our observation file, which is our TO1 or TO2 file converted to Rhinex. So that observation file. And then we're going to need the Opus report from sending that TO2 to Opus. So first thing that I like to do, you can either bring in the observation file or the TO4 file first. The TO4 file takes a bit longer, so I typically bring in that TO4 file. And now this is when I would send that TO2 off to Opus and get the solution. It just sometimes lines up timely, and you don't have to sit and wait on one or the other. Okay, our TO4, our flight telemetry file, is in. This is the flight path that the drone flew. Again, we're going to be correcting this to the base station static file. So now we want to go back and we're going to bring in that observation file, which is our base station. That'll come in. I always like make sure that it's within the flight area. If this ends up jumping way off screen into a different world, you know you brought in the incorrect base station file. So we're going to zoom in to this base station and select it. Make sure you're selecting left to right when you're going over it and not right to left. That's going to select your entire flight. We just want that base station selected, so left to right selection. Now we will right click on this and we're going to go to Coordinate Manager. Within Coordinate Manager, what we're wanting to do now is correct our lat long and altitude to what was given to us in that Opus solution. So we will navigate back to our Opus report, and we're going to be copying and pasting latitude, western longitude, if it denotes that on the Opus report, and then our ellipsoid height. Make sure you're checking hours, minutes, seconds, and making sure that these are the same. Something to pay attention to as well is in your seconds, sometimes the decimals is say 0.999. Or this is 40.001, but then in the within PosPac, this is 39.999. Don't just copy and paste your decimals because you'll have a 40 here versus a 39. So if it bumps it above or below your second, you need to make sure you're noticing that. But for this, in most cases, it's not, so we'll just copy and paste everything behind the decimal into our PosPac. Okay, now we have all those corrections brought in. Right now, if you were wanting to export and change what your frame, epoch, or ellipsoid were, you could do that here. I typically leave these all the same, and if I'm changing any of my projections or units, that's within TBC. So this all stays how it is. All we did was our lat long and altitude adjustments, and we'll close. When we close this, you can see the base station just shifted, which is good. Now we'll right click and hit set base. So once that is set, what we want to look is our fixed solution is above 93%. This is just the overlap in connectivity. 2 satellites during our flight doing a forward and reverse processing. So we're at 99.96. Typically you'll see 100%, but that all looks good. We'll click OK, and now we're going to go into our project settings, GNSS inertial processor. We're going to go to our lever arms, and all we're going to do here is change our standard deviation from 0.1 to 0.01. We'll navigate to export, and we want to change our height options to orthometric. We're going to go to geoid 18 and WGS 84. Now that that's set, you can see that our units are going to be UTM. I'm always processing everything through PosPac and CloudStation in UTM just because that's standard, so you don't have to remember to do any conversions within these. Again, I do all my conversions in TBC once I have my projects pulled in. So we're going to leave that all set, click OK, and now we can go to our GNSS processor and click run. This again is just going to correct that telemetry of our drone to that base station file. So that's finished. You can see the green line is our new corrected telemetry, the purple is our old. Something to note here, if you get an error while processing this, it's typically 90% of the time one of two things. It's either you did not do your beginning and ending J-hooks within a mission, or you did not run your base station for the duration of the flight. You didn't have that overlap, that 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. So make sure you're doing those. If you cheat it in the field, you're not going to be able to process data. So note that. And then we can see if you did J-hooks here as well. So make sure those are in your flight. Make sure you're running your base for the allotted amount of time. Okay, corrections are done. Now we just need to export. So we're going to go to Tools, going to go to Export. Up at the top, Export File, we're going to navigate to a directory that we want to export this to. Again, I just bring this back into that project folder, and I take it to the PosPac folder and export it out here. I already have this corrected and exported, so I'm not going to do that. But we'll click Save, and that's where it'll go. Now we'll click Export. It exports that SBET file out, and we are done within PosPac. Every time I'm doing a project, I always save that file as. So again, I navigate back to that project folder, go to the mission, I go within PosPac, and I save this mission and title it within here. If there's any questions in post-processing, things are looking funny, it's always nice to be able to reference back to our processing within PosPac, and we can look at our quality reports if there's any issues going on. If you don't save that, it's just a matter of assumptions, and we're not able to confirm what's going on. So now that we have our SBET file, now we just need to go to CloudStation. We're going to open up CloudStation and bring in our mission that was flown that correlates to the PosPac file. So we'll click Open Project, navigating to that mission. Here it is. Just double click, open that up, and our mission will come up. If the point cloud like this one you see is already generated, that means you just viewed it in the field, which is great. All we have to do to get back to be able to edit these and bring in that SBET file is down in the bottom left, is we'll click Modify Project Parameters. You just have to press and hold that. It'll pause, think for a second, and then it's going to take us back to the previous step so we can bring in those SBET files. Project name, I always leave this the same. My PP solution, again, you're going to navigate to PosPac and bring in that text file that you had exported out of PosPac, making sure that it is the same process file for this flight mission. Our Z reference automatically going to be an ellipsoid. We want to change that to PosPac height. And then right here where it says LiDAR, that is our output directory. Oh, excuse me. Where it says LiDAR, that's our calibration file. I fly a number of different sensors. You should have one sensor in there, and it should auto-populate once you've populated it the first time. If you have not done that, we're going to go to Navigate, we're going to Browse, and you're just going to navigate to where that dongle is plugged in into hardware under CloudStation. That license key or calibration file will be within there. So now with our SBET file is brought in, our Z references are set up. Now we just want to look at our flight mission, and we're going to clip out any flight if we have any flight legs or entry exit points that we don't want. So you can see this is an entry exit. All you have to do is click on that. It'll show you within here which one you have selected by finding the yellow pencil. You can either edit it or delete it. In this case, we just want to remove it, so we'll just hit the trash can and remove. Say this green one, again, you can see which one we're editing by the pencil highlight. Say it overextended and we have that transition in there. Again, we want to cut out all of our transitions on both ends, our entry exit points. So all we'll do is click on that. Down here, this is just a chronological timeline where that falls within the flight. So we'll just dial that back just to highlight that leg and not the transition cones. We'll click OK, and now we can process that point cloud out. That point cloud is going to generate, and then we'll be able to visualize it in a couple different ways. So once our point cloud has been generated, you can use these sidebars to view it in different filters: echo, max echo, laser, strip, intensity, scan. You can take a slice and view the profile of the scan itself. But really the goal is to export. Before you export, you have strip adjustment over here. We're just going to click adjust. That'll take a few minutes to adjust your strips, refining those strips. It'll give you a readout on your accuracy increase from running that module. I recommend running that every single time. Once strip adjustment has been completed, we'll go to the export tab. Always leave this as point cloud. This can be 1.2 or 1.4. It doesn't make a difference. I export as 1.4. It's the new file type. That's more important if you're bringing it into a software that doesn't accept 1.4 or 1.2. File name, I typically name it as the mission type. So if you need to reference it back, you know what mission it is as it came off the mapper. Coordinates, we're going to leave that again. That should be in your UTM zone that you're in, UTM 11 North. Output directory, I always navigate back to my project folder. I go to Cloud Station and then select that folder as my output. Really important to click merge strips. If you do not have that selected, it's going to export each one of those passes as a separate LAS file. If you merge it, it's going to export them as one single project LAS. Export colors when you're doing this, and in TBC when you're viewing things in true color, that's going to export it in whatever colors you have enabled out here. Within TBC, it's always nice for me. There's situations where I like having the elevation model selected. Again, you can mess with these parameters to view it however you'd like. But again, I have it something like this and just export my colors out. Now we'll click export. And once that is finished, you in the Cloud Station folder, you will have a text file. This text file, if you open it up in Notepad, will give you your roll, pitch, yaw, and your coordinate system of that LAS file, and then you will actually have the exported LAS file here. That LAS file can then be taken into TBC for further processing.